Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Alessia Citro, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hey you guys, welcome back to the show. You are in for such a treat today because I have a very special friend of mine joining us today for part one of a two-part series. And this friend is someone that I met in Lori Harder's Girlfriends in Business room. It's an amazing event, highly recommend. I've been to 3 of the 4 events. And in those rooms, I am just obsessed with meeting like-minded, high-achieving women doing the thing. And this guest that you're going to hear today is a perfect example of that. So please welcome to the show, Alessia Citro. And a little bit about her before we dive into the episode. Alessia Citro is a corporate dropout, transformative life coach, and entrepreneur. After a life-changing encounter on a plane led her from high-stakes tech sales at Google and Salesforce to entrepreneurship, Alessia embraced a new path, emphasizing authenticity and full expression. As a creator of the Higher Self Habits method, she shares her journey of walking away from a 7-figure wine business and alcohol to help others harness their potential through transformative habits. She's the author of the best-selling book, Higher Self Habits, the scientific, strategic, and spiritual framework to get out of your own way for good. Don't worry, we dive into that a lot in the episode. Alessia now inspires high achievers to bridge the gap between their external success and internal fulfillment. She is also the host of the popular podcast INHABIT with Alessia Citro, which explores these themes deeply. So a big, warm, high vibe welcome to Alessia to join us here on the show today. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. I am so excited for today's special guest. She is one of my Arizona besties, Alessia Citro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here, and this has been a long time coming. We planned this a while ago, and it's finally here.
Oh my gosh, I know. Look at us planning so far in ahead. And I know we just did a back-to-back recording of your podcast. Now we're here recording for my show. And we obviously have to tell the Inspire and Move community the same thing that we shared on your show, that the irony that both of us had medical grade skincare procedures this week. I am just a couple days out of my Halo treatment at Dermetics, which was an amazing experience. I can't wait to see what I look like next week. I feel like I'm going to look like 26 years old, so can't wait for that. And then you got a chemical peel.
Dude, I told Allie, I'm like, I hope you're not going to share the video because people are going to be like, what is wrong with her face? My entire face below my nose is peeling off and you cannot touch it. You cannot pick it or you might like scar yourself, which is like good motivation to not do it. So yeah, I look like a weirdo, but I'm praying that it will be worth it and that I will begin getting carded at the grocery store again.
Oh yeah. I after my treatment the other day, I actually drove home in my cooling sheet mask. Like I had no shame, full commitment, full commitment. I know.
Oh man. Isn't it funny how the conversations just changed though? Like 10 years ago, this would have like not even been on my radar. And now I'm like, what can I do to maintain my youth?
Oh, I am on that train so hard right now. So I had such a laugh. You guys, I literally was watching Alessia's Instagram stories earlier today and I just burst out laughing because I was like, oh my gosh, we are so aligned. So I am rocking like a bold lip, faux glasses, just trying to kind of mask my rosiness and just the look and feel. And I love it. You have a headband on. I have a headband on. We're very Blair Waldorf.
Oh yeah. Good throwback.
Very
Also,
Blair
isn't it
Waldorf.
fascinating how interested people are in the progress of a peel? Like once your face starts cracking and peeling, post it on your stories. It's going to be your most engaged with content of the entire year, which kind of makes me question if I'm maybe not doing what I should be doing.
Like, do you need a new niche for your Instagram and your brand?
Yeah, like I guess people don't care about habits. They just want to see the skin fall off my face. I don't know. Maybe I've been working harder than I need to.
Well, I think there's a bit of a sweet spot with the unapologetic, authentic content. And that's been part of my journey working with Dramatics. And I am like just loving what we're working on so far and what I'm sharing because I'm not afraid to share everything. Like I shared that I drove home in this sheet mask and I even put my sunglasses on top, which was a real look. So I have no shame. I'm like, this is what I did. And I'm so happy to share it with you.
Yeah, here for the DGAF energy for sure.
Yeah, just to be real. So speaking of being real, I want you to just like tell everybody in the Inspire and Move community. I can't even say my own brand. Tell everyone who you are, what you do. Give us the tea on your story.
Oh man, the tea. Okay, so I've done so many pivots at this point that I'm like a pivoting professional. So
Mm.
to bring you back a little bit where things get like more exciting, interesting, relevant, I was in tech sales, worked at Salesforce, worked at Google, was, a quota crusher over there. That
The
became
big
my
boys.
Oh yeah. Yeah, one of like very few women. I mean, Salesforce did a pretty good job of balancing it out. Google too, actually, but very male dominated and a lot of masculine energy, if you will,
Mm.
which I think is typical of any sales organization. But nevertheless, my identity gets wrapped up in being like a top performer, big tech girl boss, all the bullshit, right? And then COVID happens, and I had started working at Google on March 2nd of 2020. And then a week later is when the world shut down. And my daughter was 15 months old at the time, and her school closed the day that like the pandemic was here. And so here I am, dream job, quote unquote, super challenging, very high stress. And I was not meant to be a remote employee. They weren't set up to do that, even though they were high tech. Like, no, I was meant to be in the office, learn by overhearing conversations people were having, shadowing calls. None of that's happening. So, suffice to say, by the end of 2020, my identity that was completely wrapped up in external things gets taken from me. I had an existential crisis, had to go on medical leave to deal with very severe episodic depression, end up realizing I can't do this anymore. I got to go do something else entirely. I'm not being true to myself. And now 3 years later, here we are. I think I'm on the other side, definitely, of figuring it out. It's not perfect, but yeah, I've had to kind of go through hell and high water, and I'm still standing. So that's how I got into habits, because I had no good habits, and that is part of what yanked the rug out from under me.
Okay, so I'm loving, like, I love that this is you, this is your brand, this is your niche. I'm a big advocate of habits, and I know we've had some great conversations just about, how important exercise and working out is to me for, physical fitness, emotional fitness, mental fitness. But what does that sort of significance of habits, how does that translate into your journey going from this experience that you've just shared with us? Where did you start?
Oh man. Okay. It took like a full year after I left the corporate world and became an entrepreneur to figure out that this was the missing foundational piece. And so this is what I teach. And oh yeah, I didn't mention I wrote a book about this, Higher Self Habits. Okay. This is what I teach
Don't
in
you
my
worry, guys. We're gonna dive into the book, so have no fear.
I teach this like to all my coaching clients and in the book of like, you have to build on steel, not on sand. When things are
Mm.
really good and going well, you can get away with it. But when inevitably things are going to go sideways in some way, and that is where the foundational piece, if you've built it, is going to keep you going and maintaining where you want to be so that you can continue building once the storm passes. So, what I share is that you have got to focus on the lowest piece of your needs hierarchy. So, if you're not familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Abraham Maslow was a 20th century psychologist who created this. And imagine a pyramid with 5 layers on it. What do we typically do when we begin going into personal development and setting goals? We're always focused on like the big, sexy stuff at the top of the pyramid, right? Which in
Mm.
his terms is self actualization. What we often don't want to pay attention to are the really boring basics that we need to do day in and day out. Here are some examples: getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, eating nutrient dense foods, moving your body, getting sunlight. Boring shit, right? And will be like, oh, I know, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I know I'm skipping lunch, but I won't do that again tomorrow. But then you do it again tomorrow. And all of these things add up and they completely erode your ability to function at the high enough level that you need to be functioning at to do the things that you say you want to do. So I didn't have the foundational habits in place. And yeah, I had to figure this out the hard way.
So what was your first step? Did you start with changing your diet? Like, did you already have good eating habits, or were you already into working out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always been a pretty healthy eater. I think my biggest issue before was portion control because I'm Italian and we just put food in front of me. I'm probably going to eat it. So my biggest struggle has been eating at regular intervals because I get so worked up and like not worked up, sometimes that too. So like tied into what I'm doing that I will forget to eat. So that was one. But it actually started a little bit more. I know I'm talking about the foundational stuff, but what led me to the foundational stuff was doing more like soul filling practices, like
Hmm.
reading Simple Abundance in the morning, which is an amazing daily reader for women, or reading The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, another great daily reader. It was beginning to journal to get my thoughts out, really starting to do enough reflection because without enough like space between the day-to-day minutia and where I was, I couldn't see what needed to get done. So yeah, that probably sounds a little like backwards, but that was how I came to the realization that I had been neglecting all these basic things.
I think that I would actually love for you to also, and I know this hierarchy, but even though we're having a nice conversation and we don't have necessarily a whiteboard behind us for people to see visually, I would love for you to kind of continue on explaining the different levels of the needs, because I feel like there's one in there that I just heard talk about on one of your micro episodes about people and community. And that's something that
Mm-hmm.
we are like really passionate about. So take us through all these different levels of needs in the hierarchy.
Yes. Okay. So there's 5 levels. So again, imagine a pyramid. So at the bottom of the pyramid, you have basic physiological needs. So these are the things that keep you alive. So if you're not doing them on a regular basis, will you die? If the answer to that is yes, then that is a basic need. So
Yeah.
again, eating, sleeping, drinking enough water, stuff like that. Movement,
Shelter.
shelter, yes. Oh yeah, exactly. And actually from these, not to get a little too nerdy with you, these overlay with the 3 layers of the human brain too. So the 3 layers of the brain, you have the subconscious mind, which is usually running the show. 95%
Mm-hmm.
of what we do day in, day out is subconscious mind. Then you've got the limbic system, which is the emotional area of the brain. And then you've got the neocortex. Within that, humans have the prefrontal cortex, and that's the higher order thinking. That's what I'll get to in a second. So you've got, backing up to the hierarchy now, basic stuff, shelter, clothing, you get it, right? Next level is stability and safety. So where this would come into play here, can you worry about personal development if you do not know where your next meal is coming from? If
Mm.
you are worried for your safety because you live in a really unsafe neighborhood, or you are in a home where you have abuse going on or something like that, you got bigger fish to fry than working on your personal development, right? Then the third layer of the hierarchy is love and belonging and connection. We are social creatures, even if you are an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is why it's so important, even if you are an introvert, like you got to get out and go to events and meet people and like go to a coffee shop where there's activity. Like we have to be around other human beings. And what you're talking about with the mini episode I just dropped the other day, are you able to really invest in your relationships and make really quality connections if you are sleep deprived, if you aren't taking care of yourself, if you are chronically having, fatigue? Not really, right?
Totally. And I loved what you even said about deposits and withdrawals. And we can even circle back to that after we finish our
Yeah.
pyramid chat, because I think that is such a powerful message when it comes to relationships and belonging.
Yeah.
But we'll park that on a little, parking spot over here. I want to learn more about, or everyone to be able to learn more about the pyramid.
Okay, yeah. So we'll park it. So love and
Okay.
belonging, that aligns with the limbic layer of the brain. Okay. Then moving on to the last 2. So you've got self-esteem needs. which is like, do you respect yourself? Do you feel that you are generally capable of handling what life throws at you? Are you achieving things? Uh, do you just feel generally good about yourself? And then the final one is self-actualization. So these last two overlay with the prefrontal cortex and the neocortex of the brain. Self-actualization is like you are in the zone. You are using your unique genius. You're having joy day in and day out. You've got hobbies you love. You're being challenged. Like you're living your best life.
Mm.
And you can't do that if the things below are weak and have holes, right? It would be like trying to fill up a bucket with holes or like a colander. Ain't gonna work.
For sure. It's like taking care of your house. And I love what you even said about building on steel, or like the Jenga game. And there's so many
Yes.
amazing analogies that you want to
Yes.
make sure your house is in order, especially before you do, X, Y, or Z thing.
Yeah.
And that everything has its significance and everything has its place for everything to work harmoniously.
Yes. And if you neglect the stuff at the bottom, you will play whack-a-mole. If you think you can skip levels, things will go really good up at the top and then it's going to come crumbling down because you had holes in the boat.
I remember so Matt, everyone listening knows Matt, my husband, he used to work in the car business and would work in the dealership. And he always had, especially when we got together, he had really great lunches that would be very balanced, protein, veg, colorful. But a lot of his peers would go to the like Five Guys or the burger spots. And then it was textbook. Like they would always be tired and go to the coffee machine at 3. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a good afternoon coffee, but it was largely based off of the fuel or lack thereof, the quality fuel that they were putting in their body, or having a high performance. He's passionate about the world of Porsche, so you're going to put this like terrible gasoline in this high performance engine. Well, the engine, like the car's not going to perform because you're not giving it the fuel that it needs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. How true is that? Well, all this also comes down to maintaining good health. There
Mm.
is an Indian proverb that how does it go? A man with great health has many wishes. A man with poor health has only one, because you
Ooh.
would give everything to get your health back. Right?
Absolutely. And it's something that, I mean, that's in our wheelhouse for what we do in our business with the gym, is to promote that. And I mean, we're a lifestyle gym. Like I also want people to have fun and joyful moments and be social. But my goodness, like you talk about the hierarchy of needs with community and belonging. That's something that we're so passionate about. And so let's kind of go to our parking spot and grab the relationship capital and talk about deposits and withdrawals, because I think that's a really powerful topic. And it's something that I've actually had a lot of fun talking about on the show, whether it's just like I do solo episodes, Matt and myself do an episode, or with guests, talking about how relationships affect our life and maybe they come and go, and friendships for reasons, seasons, and lifetimes. And not everyone's going to support you on your journey. Like I think that there's still like a really big message that is there to be communicated when it comes to people and relationships. And when you talked about this deposits and withdrawals, I thought that really, really landed. So I would love for you to elaborate on that on the show.
Yeah, when I heard, and actually I didn't come up with this. This is Reese Witherspoon. I heard her say this on a podcast and I was like, whoo, bookmark that in the brain. That is spot on. Think about a friend you have they know that you're in a season of just craziness and they send you a text, hey friend, I'm thinking about you. I love you. No need to reply. Just know you're on my mind. Oh my gosh, that is such a huge deposit, right?
Love that.
Versus like, I know you're really busy. Can you tell me da 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 when you have a minute? That feels like a much smaller deposit, maybe even a withdrawal, right? So can you just show up for people without expecting anything in return? What are some other great ways to make deposits? I mean, I love like sending little notes in the mail. I don't do this often enough. I got to get back into the habit, but I go to Trader Joe's. Do they have Trader Joe's in Canada?
No, I wish.
Oh, I'm obsessed with them. Okay. They have the
Me too.
cutest cards. They should open just like a store where they sell their cards. They're 99 cents a piece. They're the cutest. I buy them in bulk and then I'll just write a note, like maybe to people. I know we're going to talk about book club in a little while too. Maybe send it out to someone in the book club, send it to one of my friends from college, send it to my nephew who I haven't talked to, my cousin, right? Making just little deposits when people don't expect it. Cause I don't know. If you think about the people who make your cup run over, It's the people
Mm-hmm.
who show up for you and do something nice when you're not expecting it that really have the biggest impact. And those are always the relationships that I want to nurture the most. Even if it's like leaving a
Absolutely.
note for your spouse at the coffee pot, like, hey, made you coffee, love you.
Totally. And I'm a big proponent of understanding love languages. And I know now we have so many tools to work with in terms of like Enneagrams and your human design and the different psychological like colors. And like there's so many systems and tools we can use to understand our personalities and our spouses and then your team. I'm very comfortable with talking about love languages and I'm kind of learning slowly about Enneagrams. But what, like, first of all, what's your love language?
I think that mine has maybe changed a bit. It was words of affirmation, but now I think acts of service means more.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like
What's
a
yours?
words of affirmation followed by quality time.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
They're
I
all so
love
good.
like what you're saying about the notes, and I also like practicing that. I mean, I think it's important to again understand who you're working with and what it means to them. Is it
Yeah.
actions? Is it time, service, affirmations, all of those things?
Yeah.
But I even say like as an entrepreneur, like you leave our business a Google review as a words of affirmation person, love. Podcast reviews, love. Like
Oh,
anything that's
yes.
loving and kind.
I also wonder though, well, I don't want to go on a tangent, but like with human design, I'm a sacral generator and my whole thing is like to respond. So like I need something to respond to. That's why when people like, yeah, write a podcast review, oh my gosh, how excited I get about a review on the show is like kind of dumb. It's like a little embarrassing how much it means because it's like, okay, people like this. I'm going to keep doing it. So yeah, I have to have stimuli to respond to also.
And you are more knowledgeable on the Enneagram as well, aren't you?
Uh, yes, although I just learned that what I thought was my number is not. I was mistyped.
Oh, so what do you think you are?
Now I know I am, thanks to Tracy O'Malley, a 7, which
Okay.
makes a lot of sense. I thought I was an 8 with a really strong 7 wing. Nope, it's the other way around.
And what is that known as?
The 7 is like the free spirit, spontaneity. It's like your fun friend that like you want to have at the party. And then the 8 is like the challenger. It's like the leader, the person who's going to like push you past your limits, like make you question things. Yeah. And I do both of those. But yeah, I'm definitely more of a 7.
I love that. I need to do my test, but I think I'm an achiever.
Oh, a 3. Yeah. Everyone that I gravitate to is like a 3, an 8, or a 7, it seems like. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's how we vibe. So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming back to habits. So you wrote a book about habits, and I feel like you had just published the book when you and I first met at Lori Harder's Girlfriends in Business. So let's talk about higher self habits.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a book I wrote. I'm not qualified to write this book in terms of like traditional credentials. And because of that, I had a lot of imposter syndrome while writing it. Like, I have a business degree. I sold enterprise tech. Who am I to write a book about habits, right? I don't know anything about behavioral science, right? I didn't go to college for that. Okay. All that's bullshit. I wrote the book that I wished I had had, and that quite frankly, I think most women need, because if this blew my mind when I realized this, besides me and Jen Sincero or Sincero, I don't know which is
Oh,
correct.
yeah, I love her.
Yeah, me too. You are a badass. That was like my gateway drug into personal development, by the way.
Mhm.
So shout out to Jen for that. She also wrote Badass Habits. And other than her and I, and you could maybe make the argument for Mel Robbins, the high 5 habit, but that's one habit, not habits in general. There are no other female authors in this space. Every single habits book is written by a man. Atomic Habits by James Clear, Tiny Habits by Dr. BJ Fogg, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. What's the other one?
High
High
Performance
Performance
Habits by
Habits.
Brendon Burchard.
They're all men. Okay. And they're great books. I'm not trying to say anything to the contrary. However, the male approach to habits is very different than the way that women need to approach habits for this simple fact. We operate on a 28-day-ish hormone cycle, and men are operating on a 24-hour hormone cycle. They have Groundhog Day, the same shit every single day. We do not. It's choose your own adventure depending on where we're at in our cycle. So your habits are not going to look the same every day, and that is okay.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned something about this before we started, like we recorded. So let's dive into that because I think that is a super powerful takeaway for listeners that a lot of people would probably not even think about. I don't even think about that. And I love healthy habits.
I didn't think about it either till I just kept banging my head against the wall. And I'm like, what is making this hard to do? And then, I don't know, I stumbled upon cycle syncing when I was 36, which also infuriated me, by the way. I'm like, I've been menstruating at that point for 24 years. I'm just now finding out about this.
Oh,
I
I
was
feel
so
like it's
mad.
like a newer, not new age, but it's like a newer awareness that is, something that people are very confident talking about online, podcasts. Like there is much more education and information available to us. But I'd be the same as you, that I just kind of roll with it, like, okay, oh yeah, time of the month. All right. Oh, time of the month. But there was no system. And in my world with workouts and gym life, like there's a lot about that. I think there's a lot of amazing people online that talk about that with program design and your workouts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm here for all of the information. So share away.
So, okay, one like caveat before we jump into this. I'm like a pretty even keeled person with hormones. Whereas like I have friends who have PMDD where like before they have their period, like it is bad, like it is dark. They want to like leave their husband or
Oh,
off him maybe, like bad, okay? So, if you have that level of fluctuation, what I'm saying may not even apply to you, and go find an amazing doctor who gets it to level things out. If you're like me and things are generally kind of chill throughout the month, you get a little moody, but it's all good in the hood, this will apply more to you. So, with that said,
let me
you
think.
have 4 phases to your cycle. So there's the menstrual phase, which we all know about. That's when you're bleeding. But then you have
Mm-hmm.
3 other ones, which don't get talked about. After menstrual is follicular. This is where you are really creative. It is a time to come up with ideas, to plan, to prepare. And you'll notice if you're an entrepreneur and you have the luxury of choosing when you do things in your business, that's a really good time to do the things of planning ahead, coming up with content ideas, yada, yada. Okay. Then you move into ovulatory. Ovulatory is like hot girl summer. Okay. This is when you're feeling the best about yourself, loving your look. You're probably going to buy things online that even enhance your look. It's a great time to go to events. It's a great time to film your content. You're magnetic. Why? Because at a primal level, your physiology wants you to get pregnant. I mean, whether or not you're trying to do that or if you even can do that, animal brains, like I said, subconscious mind running the show. So there's that. Okay, then you get into luteal, the longest phase of the cycle. And
Dun
this is
dun
when
dun.
I'm in my
Start with
luteal right now.
ovulation.
So if I sound spicy, you know why. Okay, so it does come with benefits though. You're have hyper attention to detail. So it's a really good time to tie up loose ends from the beginning when you were coming up with ideas, planning, preparing. Really good time to do admin, behind the scenes work. Maybe not the best time to be doing selling or things like that. Yeah, you might want to burn your business down. Yeah, you might hate the way that your husband breathes during this time. Which I just heard. Apparently, the reason is because on a subconscious primal level, you're mad that he didn't get you pregnant. I'm like, that's crazy. But I mean, I guess it makes sense.
Answers for everything.
Right. And then so there's that. So then in your menstrual phase, the following one, this is a better time to like rest, recharge, reflect. So these also correspond to the seasons of the year. So follicular is like springtime, right? Ovulatory is summer. Luteal is fall. You're harvesting everything from spring and summer. And then menstrual is like winter. So given all that, I think that oftentimes, especially because I only work with high achievers, that's just
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand anyone outside of that. So that's my audience. We are always like, go big, go home. If I can't do it right, I'm not going to do it. And we get really frustrated and down on ourselves when we say we want to have these habits and routines and then we can't stick to them.
Mm,
Right? Is that resonating a little?
yeah.
So, what if we got really curious and we made this into not like these rigid habits and routines, but instead flexible rituals that could shift based on where we're at in the month? So, perhaps you create a menu for your morning routine. What if you have meditation on the menu, journaling, affirmation, visualization, stretching? I don't know. I'm just making things up that people like to do in the morning. And then
I
you
love
could pick off the menu what feels good to me today based on my energy levels and how I'm feeling. Maybe you treat it like a buffet. You could pick a few things off the menu if you want, right? But rather than it has to look this way every single day, I mean, outside of what I talked about in the very beginning of like hydrating, sleeping, eating regularly and decent food, the rest of this, you get to choose your own adventure each day.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.